part of the appeal of this show is seeing people in pain, I suppose. So mission accomplished. It's like a sledgehammer of spice. Why are you laughing? This is terrible.
Hey, it's Sam with Asianati. This is Asianati Eats Hot One Style with our guest, Mayor Aftab Pureval. Mayor Aftab Pureval was born and raised in Ohio and went to college at The Ohio State University, then law school at the University of Cincinnati. Upon graduation, he practiced law for several years in Washington, D.C., and then came back to work at Procter & Gamble. In 2016, he was elected to the Hamilton County Clerk of Courts, and then in 2021, in a historic election, Aftab Pureval was elected as the first Asian American mayor of Cincinnati. Thank you so much, Mayor Aftab, for joining us.
I am so looking forward to this. I am starving, by the way, so this is perfect timing. Yes. This is going to be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for doing this.
So we'll be basing this format off of the show Hot Ones by First We Feast. If you haven't seen that fiery show before, you can watch it on YouTube. Here's how it works. We'll be eating progressively hotter food and talking about harder questions. All of the questions today were written by our Asianati team. Our food comes from Krishna Indian restaurant and Carryout in Clifton. We picked a few dishes with varying spice levels. I
love Krishna's, by the way, so thank you so much for picking a restaurant that I'm familiar with and excited to eat.
What's your comfort level with spice?
I am half Tibetan and half Punjabi, so it should be extraordinary, but unfortunately, I'm going to manage expectations and say I'm like an average spice eater because I don't want to be crying on TV. But we'll see. It's going to be fun. How about you? What's your level of spice tolerance?
I think I'm pretty okay. I order also the middle of the road spice level, so we'll find out.
We're both pretty okay, so we're both going to be, I think, in some pain.
Probably.
Yeah.
So to jump right in, first we're starting out with some chicken pakoras.
Okay, nice. You've started us out with a fried item,
right,
which is helpful.
There's no extra spice for this one.
Are you happy with Indian food? Is this something you're into?
Very much
Cheers.
so.
Okay,
cheers.
Good. Yeah, Krishna's is really a go-to for my wife and I. This is delicious.
It is.
I've had their vegetable pakoras, but never their chicken, so this is actually a new item for me.
Mayor Aftab, as you know, you're the freaking mayor.
Right. I say that to myself in the mirror all the time. I'm the freaking mayor. Yeah, it's good confidence boosting.
You get a lot of hard questions, for sure. Here at Asianati, a lot of our team members get this particular hard question a lot.
All
so
right.
I wanted to pass it to you. What is your favorite Cincinnati Asian restaurant, and what's your go-to order there?
Okay, so we're actually eating what is genuinely my favorite Cincinnati Asian restaurant. So Krishna's is a great place because, and I say this lovingly, it is a greasy spoon Indian restaurant. When you go to Krishna's, I mean, they have like seating for like 4 or 5 people. It is a very, very small restaurant that uses heavy cream in almost all of their dishes. So I wouldn't say it's healthy, but it is great comfort food. And it's also relatively affordable. So when I was a law student, it's physically located right across from the law school, and so I would go there, get a relatively affordable meal. The portions are enormous, so you get filled up, and it reminded me of home. It reminds me of my mom and dad's cooking from when I was growing up. So without question, Krishna's is my favorite, but there's so many wonderful, extraordinary Asian restaurants throughout the region. And that's why I'm so happy to do this, to try and lift up some of those small businesses.
All right, so our next dish here are Krishna's Veggie Samosas.
Okay. I love that we're still in the fried category.
Still
so
not
what
too spicy
what
either.
are we spice level here?
We didn't ask for any extra spice,
okay.
So this is just the normal version.
So I'm not grabbing for the lassi
Probably
yet.
not
okay.
yet.
All right, fair enough. Here we go.
All right.
It's all the hallmarks of a great samosa. It's got a flaky outside, really warm, soft potatoes and peas on the inside, spiced perfectly. Krishna's knows what they're doing.
Last AAPI Heritage Month,
yep.
Local Asian American artist Anissa Pulsion installed a mural representing food as our love language, a universal concept familiar to many Asian Americans. And this mural is down at Finley Market. here in Cincinnati. Most of us here in Asianati have very strong feelings of Asian food being our love language growing up, whether it's at the holidays or at home. What is your fondest family food memory from growing up?
It's a great question. By the way, my love language is words of affirmation. So I demand that my wife tell me that she loves me every day, which annoys her to the nth degree. And her love language is acts of service. So really, she just wants me to do laundry every day. So anyway, we have a very happy marriage. My fondest food memory growing up, it's probably, it's probably Thanksgiving. As I mentioned, maybe I didn't mention it, but my mom is from Tibet and my father is from India. And so both of them shared the responsibility of cooking in our household. And so, I was really fortunate growing up to be exposed to cuisines from all over Asia, frankly, both Asia and South Asia. And what struck me as I think back upon it was when I was a kid, I thought it was kind of normal, or I thought it was, normal is not the right word, I thought it was an everyday experience for everyone that they would be eating those kinds of foods at home. Bok choy, various stir fries, various curries. It wasn't until I was older that I recognized that that was unique to my own experience. But what really kind of drove it home for me was Thanksgiving. So, the traditional Thanksgiving meal is turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes. We had turkey that my mom purchased from somewhere else, but then all of our sides were different kinds of stir fries, different kinds of curries, different Indian, Asian, and Tibetan foods. And so it was kind of like growing up in a fusion restaurant and having like a fusion gala every Thanksgiving, which I think I took it for granted when I was a kid, but now when I think back on it, I was extraordinarily lucky. And so now that I have kids of my own, I try to incorporate all of those food experiences and food cultures whenever we have a celebration.
So our next dish won't burn your mouth yet either.
Okay, good.
It's Dal Makhni at a spice level of 1.
I am a huge Dal Makhni fan. It is, for those who don't know, it's a lentil dish, incredibly healthy, packs a lot of flavor. And there's different kinds of dals, and Dal Makhni is definitely my favorite. So should we dig in?
Yeah.
All right. I'm like scared, so I'm going to take a tiny bite. Although I guess I can handle a 1.
So, Mayor Aftab, you grew up in the Midwest, just north of here, in the Dayton area, in a town called Beaver Creek.
Yeah.
It has a Asian population of a little over 6%. What was the biggest challenge you faced as an Asian American growing up here in the Midwest?
It's so interesting. I'm shocked that it has an Asian population of 6%. Growing up in the 80s and 90s in Beaver Creek, it did not feel like 6%. So maybe it has grown since then. But growing up in a place that was relatively homogeneous was a challenge for me. Given my mixed ethnicity, my Tibetan and Punjabi background, and given the fact that I actually have a Persian name, Aftab it means sunshine. No one in my family is Persian. I'm not Persian. My parents were really committed to an identity crisis. So growing up in Beaver Creek, I didn't really fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in amongst the Indian community because I don't necessarily look entirely Indian. There is no Tibetan community to speak of. My observation is I've never met a Tibetan woman I wasn't related to, right? So there wasn't really a Tibetan community to fit into. And in the larger white community, I was kind of considered an other. And so that was a really difficult time for me growing up, not having that kind of permanent community and stable identity. Now looking back on it, I think what it forced me to do as a child and what I use even now as an adult is kind of constantly making people comfortable with who I am, with my ethnicity, and with my background. And that has forced me to be much more empathetic than maybe different experiences would have caused. And so I'm able to put myself in other people's shoes because I've had to kind of constantly do that throughout my life.
So our next dish
Yes.
is the chicken chole
Oh,
from
great.
Krishna. That's really good.
So this is our fourth dish. So are we
It
on
is.
a 2 spice level? Do we know where
It
we're
is
at?
still a spice level 1.
Oh, great.
So-
This is so easy. We're just coasting through this. This is great. So this is looks like a beautiful dish. Chole is traditionally garbanzo beans in Indian cuisine, and obviously chicken speaks for itself. So let's
Right.
dig in. I'm feeling a little bite there. There's a little spice, but nothing too bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good for a spice level 1. I want to read you a quote that
Okay.
you said in Cincinnati Magazine in 2016.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Throwback. You have to believe in what you're saying and what you're running for. I do because I know what it's like to not fit in, to be an outsider in the system. And this has a lot to do with my name. You referred to this a little bit in the previous question, but
Yeah.
how do you pronounce your full name and what languages does it come from?
So my full name is Aftab Pureval, and my full name reflects my multi-ethnic background. So as I mentioned, Aftab is actually a Persian name, and it means sunshine. Karma is a Tibetan name, and it means fate. Singh is a name that that my father gave me. His religion was Sikhism, and all Sikh boys have the middle name Singh, which means lion. And Pureval is a reference to the farming village that my paternal ancestors came from in Punjab. So Aftab Karma Singh Pureval. I'm really proud of my name. My 2 boys share both of my middle names. So Bodhi's one of his middle names is Singh, and Rami, one of his middle names is Karma. Trying to, names are incredibly important as cultural identifiers, and so I'm trying to celebrate all of my cultures in my children. I often get questions about how I pronounce my name, and I pronounce my name Aftab. And that disappoints some people, particularly some South Asians, that I don't go by Aftab. And the only thing I can say to folks who have opinions about it is assimilating in this country is an intentionally personal decision. Some Asian and South Asians have, like for example, ethnic Chinese folks have a Chinese name and then they have an American name. They have 2 completely separate names. That's one decision to assimilate. One decision to assimilate is to pronounce your name as it was originally intended. But no one can really understand what your personal experiences are as a person of color or as a person with a unique ethnic background growing up in the part of the country that you're growing up in. And so it's none of my business, frankly, what those intensely personal decisions are to assimilate. And so I always take the position that I never judge people about their names, about how they choose to pronounce their names, because for me it's been intensely personal, and I genuinely do not believe that there is a right answer for that.
Yeah, I am the same way, where I was born with a Chinese name and an English name, and it is a very personal relationship that's part of your identity,
Right.
and it's almost like a journey through, like it changes your relationship with your name and your identity just growing up to now. So.
And I'm incredibly, I do go by Aftab, but I'm incredibly proud of being half Tibetan and being half Punjabi. And, I think I've referenced it like 9 times in this short interview already, and I talk about it ad nauseum. So it's not an issue of me being ashamed or of hiding anything. It's really just an issue of trying to navigate this corner of the community that I live and am expected to lead in.
So for our next dish, we are leveling up 1 spice level with Saag Paneer at a spice level 2.
Okay, great. This is my wife's favorite dish. She loves Saag Paneer. So let's dig in.
There was a zine published for AAPI Heritage Month around the theme, "Where are you really from?" And the experiences of being Asian American in the Midwest. We commissioned 23 AAPI artists talking about the experience of being Asian American in the Midwest.
I have seen that. Yes, I was at the kickoff party, yes.
So it's centered around that question, where are you really from? And so we're wondering your thoughts on how does it feel being asked that question, where are you really from? How does it make you feel? What do you say to that? How do you respond to that?
It's the worst question ever, right? I mean, it's such a frustrating experience that is shared amongst not only the AAPI community, but the larger community of color. AAPIs are, I think, traditionally stuck between two falsities, one being the model minority and the second being the permanent foreigner. So we are expected, because we are viewed as the model minority, to be exceptional, to be perfect, and at the same time to keep our mouths shut, because we should be grateful to be in this country, because a lot of people view us as the permanent foreigner. And the permanent foreigner experience, I think, is really the origins of the question of where are you from. You know, sometimes I give people the benefit of the doubt, because some people just don't have the vocabulary. A lot of people, I think, are asking, what is your ethnicity, right? What is your ethnic background? But they feel uncomfortable using that terminology, or they don't have that terminology at their fingertips, so they jump to where are you from, which I think subconsciously they're not trying to be offensive, but I take as very offensive. And so of course, growing up, that was a question that I had to address over and over again. I think as I got older, I got less and less patient in accommodating with folks, and so I would legitimately answer the question, right? This is so childish, but someone would ask me, where are you from? And I would say, oh, I grew up just outside of Dayton. And they'd say, no, where are you really from? And I'd say, well, I grew up in Beaver Creek. And then they would start getting angry with me, right? Because I was answering their question. So then they would say, well, what's your nationality? And that's even dumber of a question. I was born in Beaver Creek, so I'm an American. Right. And then they would get frustrated and say, you know what I'm asking you, right? So not only is the question offensive, a lot of people would get impatient if I didn't do the work for them. And so my recommendation to people is, if you're interested in someone's ethnicity, it's not offensive to say, hey, what's your ethnicity? At least I'm not offended by that, and I think most people wouldn't be either. As I mentioned, my identity is really was kind of a moving target as I got older, but and this is in line with where are you from. My parents and I were privileged enough to go back to their countries of origin. So growing up, I would go to India quite often. My mom is a refugee, and her parents settled in Kathmandu, Nepal, so I would visit them in Nepal quite often as well. I've only been to Tibet once. I was in the 7th grade, so I was old enough to remember it but not appreciate it. But having that connection back to those physical locations and family in those physical locations was obviously incredibly helpful for me personally as well.
All right, so for this next dish, we are going with a lamb curry.
Okay,
and it
great.
is at a spice level 3.
Oh, here we
So
go.
halfway.
Man, we are jumping up there.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 is usually the spice level that I get at Krishna, so I should be able to handle this.
I would
Fingers
probably
crossed.
also order a 3. So
Okay,
this is where
our wheelhouse. Good.
our-
Good. This looks great. I can feel it. You feel that heat? Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's good.
Not too bad though.
It's like I could still have a good amount of it
Right.
without it being too spicy.
I think
so that's
3
why
is
it's
the
my
perfect
go-to.
level. It's
Yeah,
the perfect.
I agree. A recent Pew Research Center stat that we read is that 1 in 5 Americans will be multiracial by 2050. A lot of our Asianati team is multiracial, myself included. So I was curious how you navigate through your identity as Tibetan and Indian, and how you'll help your kids navigate their growing up as multiracial.
Yeah, this is something I think a lot about. I think our conversation so far has really focused on my own identity, but I think what is even trickier is my kids' identity. Because of course I'm really proud of my parents and their ethnic backgrounds, but I also want my wife, who is white, to have space to have our children identify with her background and her family's history and celebrate that as well. And that's why the naming of our children was so critically important. We really worked together to find names that tried to, for lack of a better term, tick all the boxes, right? And so my first son's name is Bodhi, and it was kind of a perfect name for him because Bodhi has origins in Sanskrit, which is reflective of my Indian side. Bodhi is the type of tree that Buddha found enlightenment while meditating under. It's also short for Bodhisattva, which is a level of enlightenment as well in Buddhism. And there are white people named Bodhi, right? So it's accessible to the larger community. So striking that balance in the name, I think, is an example of how we will parent our son Bodhi and how we will try to help him navigate the very treacherous landscape of identity in this culture at this time, given that he is of mixed ethnicity. My parents were so focused on, because they're first generation Americans, were so focused on putting food on the table and succeeding professionally to provide a comfortable life for my brother and I, that I think they either didn't have the tools to help us assimilate, or they weren't aware of the challenges of that. They were trying to assimilate themselves, and so making that space for my brother and I think was almost too much to ask. My wife and I are differently situated because we're born in this country, we're from this country, and so I'm hoping to parent my children in a way that feeds their soul and feeds their identity, while also all the other responsibilities I have as a parent.
So for our second to last dish, we're going with the chicken tikka masala at a spice level of 5.
5, okay, we're really
up to 5 now.
We're graduating quickly.
Yeah.
So chicken tikka masala is like the most popular dish in London. It's a very kind of accessible dish here in the United States. I think for most people who are eating Indian food for the first time, this is their first dish. So it's, I think, appropriate for us to be near the top, because Krishna's scale is to 6, right? So we're just one step below. So, so prepare yourself for some embarrassing reactions here. You ready?
I'm a little scared.
Here we go.
I'm ready. To go for water already?
I think I'm going to reach for the lassi for the first time today.
I will join you, actually.
Yeah.
I haven't had any.
Excuse me. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm on the surface of the sun. Are you about to explode?
I'm doing okay, but I had a smaller bite than you, I think.
Okay, fair enough. All right, part of the appeal of this show is seeing people in pain, I suppose, so mission accomplished.
I believe so.
That's delicious, by the way.
So, in preparation for this interview with you, we noticed you have 11,000 followers on Instagram.
Oh, cool.
Yes, to our, I believe we have 3,800 followers. So we were scouring your profile to find your secret.
Okay.
And I think part of it, has to do with your style.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay.
So we wanted to show you 2 photos from your social media pages and would love for you to explain them in a little bit more detail.
All right.
So this first one here is of you at opening day.
Oh, great.
With some pretty fancy sneakers. My husband Gabe was fangirling over them. So could you explain a little bit more about them?
So I'm so glad you're pointing out these sneakers. So I am self-admittedly a sneakerhead. I'm specifically, I've different kinds of sneakers, but specifically very much into the Jordans. Excuse me, I'm still digesting this very hot meal. My favorite Jordans are the Jordan 11s. I think they are the perfect sneaker ever made, like the pinnacle of shoe design. But I'm also a big fan of the Jordan 1s. And what I'm wearing in this photo is the Jordan 1s, and they're called Rebellionaires. And what is really amazing about this shoe is that, first of all, a Cincinnati shoe designer designed this shoe. It is a play off of the shoes that were banned. The NBA banned a pair of Jordan 1s because of the colorway. And so this is a kind of reference to that. So Rebellion and then Air for Air Jordan. So it was designed by a Cincinnati sneaker designer, and there were only 8 stores in the entire country that this shoe dropped in, and corporate here in Cincinnati was one of those 8 stores. And corporate didn't just get the shoe and sell them to the community. They used this as an opportunity to drive service to, I think, 6 or 7 nonprofits in our community. If you did community service at those nonprofits, you got a kind of VIP access to buy them first. And so I was really proud to get a pair of these to lift up corporate, to lift up our local talent who's designing shoes. And of course, I think they're incredible looking Jordans.
So this second one.
Oh,
Super
wow,
Bowl
yes.
custom jacket.
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
So I was so excited. I mean, the Bengals have lost one time during my administration, so you're welcome. It's definitely on me. Just kidding. But I saw the Super Bowl as an opportunity to brag about our city. And so I think we created $4 billion of earned media attention and tried to use every opportunity I could to talk about why Cincinnati is so special and why we are the future. And so I asked Means Cameron, the owner of Black Owned, one of our premier apparel companies locally owned, if he could design a bomber for me that I could wear to the Super Bowl. The only thing I told him was I wanted it to be orange, and I let him kind of take it away from there. Much to my surprise, he put the word mayor on the back of it, so it's not subtle. But I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have a custom piece by Means Cameron and to use every opportunity to lift up our Black-owned businesses here in Cincinnati. So it was a real treat.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome jacket.
Yeah, it is, right?
So we made it to the last dish.
Okay. I'm like actually scared.
Yeah. This is Krishna's chicken vindaloo.
Okay.
And we just asked them to make it as spicy as possible. So
it's off the charts.
It's off
There's
the
no
charts.
number
it
associated
doesn't
with this.
exist on the spice scale.
Okay. Were there any cautions, any instructions from them on this?
They said to not let you eat more than a spoonful. So
So you're trying to assassinate me. That's what's happening
take
here.
that what you will. So.
Okay. It looks scary. Look, it looks
does.
quite ominous.
It does.
It's got like the color is a little off.
It's definitely the darkest.
Oh my
curry that
gosh.
we've tried.
Okay. How are you so cool?
It's definitely building.
Building? It's like a sledgehammer of spice. Why are you laughing? This is terrible.
All right.
Who
So
agreed to do this? Guys?
While you're dying, I'm going to ask you a
Thank
few
you.
questions.
Great.
I'll read them off really quick.
I can't
and you
believe
just
how
answer.
composed you are. Good for you.
You just answer whatever comes to your mind.
My Indian dad is going to be so disappointed in me.
So, as an Ohio sports fan, you've been a battling beaver,
Can someone take this
a
away?
Buckeye, a Bearcat, and now a Bengal.
Yeah. Thank you.
take.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Watch yourself.
Do you think the Reds should change their name to the Burgundies?
No, absolutely not. No.
Another hot take.
Yeah.
Dayton area.
Right.
Bill's or Jim's Donuts?
Oh, I like Bill's Donuts. Yeah, Bill's Donuts. I will say Marion's Pizza for me is the best cuisine on the face of the earth. So,
Gold Star or Skyline?
Skyline.
Favorite Asian pantry staples?
I'm really having trouble thinking here. What's your favorite Asian pantry staples?
Seaweed packets.
Seaweed packets. Those are good. Yeah, I'm going to steal that. That's good.
Favorite Asian snacks?
Let's see. I am really, favorite Asian snacks. You know, I don't know that this is a snack, but for me, vegetable pakoras are, I think, a perfect bite-sized bite of everything that is perfect about Indian cuisine.
And lastly, your go-to karaoke song.
So I take great pride in knowing all of the words to Outkast's very fast rap, Bombs Over Baghdad.
Nice.
So, yeah, crush that.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, thank you for having me on.
You made it. Congrats.
I have like meetings after this.
We've set you up perfectly for
Yeah,
them.
thank
I'm
you.
Sure.
But seriously, thank you so much for this. This was really a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us
Thank
and
you.
for joining us and eating some hot food with us.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you want to tell the audience?
I would just say happy
Mayor?
AAPI Heritage Month. I'm so honored to be the mayor of Cincinnati. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks to you and your team.
Absolutely.